Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the World's Okayest Mountain Bike Podcast. And if I remember correctly, we had until February 9th to record this and still meet our deadline. Well, it's February 6th. So look at us go. And on today's podcast, we've got Ryan and Kyle are both here, but Kyle has a hard stop in 40 minutes. So we're going to get right into it. And we've got a couple topics coming up here. I'm just going to tell you what they're going to be. Kyle needs Enduro tires. He also needs to figure out what shock he's going to get. So we're going to do some shock comparisons. Going to talk about what I hypothetically is the perfect quiver killer bike. And then lastly, upgrades that are worth the money or not worth the money, and our opinions on a few of those. I've got some now. Forget it. We'll get there when we get there. All right, so let's get it started. Now, before we do you guys need to fill us in on any important news going on in your world?
I just want to comment. I don't got a lot of news, but I wanted to comment that I initiated this podcast too. So I was the one, yes, that always was keeping us from doing these. Seemed like it would never fit the schedule. I'm the one that said, hey guys, we got to get a podcast going for February. So I'm going to pat myself on the back.
Okay, I just want to say I too said the same thing, but Ryan, I think you are going to initiate every podcast because it's pretty much always based on your availability.
And then other than I got, if you're in the St. Louis area, Granada Cyclery is hosting a movie night with free beer and snacks on February 10th this Saturday. Come out, hang out, watch a couple movies. We're going to watch some of the Anthill film movies from over the years and talk about bikes because I love talking about bikes. It's the dead middle of winter. And besides the nice little weather snap we're in right now in St. Louis, there's not been a whole lot of bike riding. So I'm gonna plug that one event. So that's Saturday the 10th at 6 o'clock at Granada. Come hang out, drink some free beer, watch a couple mountain bike movies, and pretend like the weather's going to be good.
Gotcha. All right, Kyle. Why do you need Enduro bike tires? Are you going to race some Enduro this year?
I'm going to race. I think I have 3 Enduros scheduled this year that I'm planning to race. But mostly so over the years, I am just a slave to the brand, which means if I'm riding a Trek, I'm going to run Bontrager tires. If I'm riding a Specialized, I'm going to run Specialized tires. And by far and large, there's offerings been from all those brands internally in their own brand structure that make sense and are good, like plenty good enough, right? Like I don't know if I'm a good enough rider or care enough to know like minute differences between the different brands that really made it worth it to go with something other than the house brand tire, right? I don't know why. I'm weird like that. I like to keep things all in the same company. So with that said, I've got a new bike coming. I'm very, very excited about it, and it's from a brand that I've wanted to be a part of for a long time. However, that brand does not have an internal tire company, and so trying to figure out what I'm going to do. It does come with Maxxis tires. I'm open to riding Maxxis tires, so I wanted to figure out what makes the most sense. And then Maxxis has so many different offerings: casings, rubber types, tread patterns, all that different stuff. What does the ultimate iRace Enduro in Missouri tire combo look like? And also, I like to play and hit jump parks and ride Flow Trail in Bentonville. I'm not a guy that changes tires all season. I want to put one set of tires on, race, and enjoy Flow Trail and everything in between. As long as it's good enough, surviving in Enduro is probably the most important thing, but then being fast enough and fun enough and enjoyable the rest of the rides also. So that's where it's at. What do you think, Clint?
Okay. First question is, so I didn't know you were buying a full build. I thought maybe you were just starting with a frame. But if you're buying a full build that comes with Maxxis tires, the question is going to be, well, which model Maxxis tires does it come with?
So I'd have to check. I'm pretty sure it comes with Minions, and if I was guessing, I would imagine they come with Minions, not in a double down casing, maybe XO Plus.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the question. If they were coming with Minions and double down, I'd say good enough. Run it till they wear out. No need to worry about it. If it's only coming in XO or maybe XO Plus, that might be okay for the front. You're going to flat that on the rear eventually.
Yeah, I'm pretty much committed to doing a double down casing on the rear. And then I was debating, do you think, the way I ride, I'm pretty finessey and not as smashy. Do you think I can get by with an XO Plus on the front?
I think you could. But I know you, so you're going to want your tire brands to match. Now, if
Correct.
you're willing to
100%,
buy
yeah.
a brand new set, front and wheel, if you're willing to buy a brand new set, front and rear, knowing you, knowing how much you ride, and after me going through the last 2 years of all kinds of tire testing, I would pay the slightly higher price, and I myself would be getting a Vittoria Martello 2.4 rear, which the new 2.4 rear, even though you'd think it's be the exact same as a 2.35, I did confirm with Ken Avery at Vittoria that they actually did slightly change the size and the casing to be optimized for 30 millimeter internal rims.
Okay.
So the ones that say 2.4 are actually different than the ones that were 2.35 previously.
Okay.
So I'd go the 2.4 Martello rear. I'd do a 2.4 Mazda front. I'd do them both in the Enduro casing. And for you, I would not do the Enduro race Mazda or Martello. That's the pure 1C compound. If I were you, especially if you're going to go to Bentonville some as well and race in Missouri, I would stick with the 4C Enduro compound because it's going to roll faster. The side knobs are still amazing on those tires. And having gone through the gamut of I want fast rolling tires, no, I want super grippy tires, I'm pretty well back to, I think the roll speed matters more than I was giving it credit for. Because when I'm on some slow rolling tires, I can't corner fast enough to make up for. Usually on most tires, the side knobs are gummier and stickier than the top knobs anyway. And what I have found is I really don't corner that much better on a super soft tire than I do on not a hard tire, but Maxxis, Max Terra or Vittoria, the side knobs. The side knobs on all those are still a softer compound than the center tread. And so if you're on a flat corner where it really matters, you're going to get basically almost as good cornering traction. But I'm telling you, the roll speed makes such a huge difference. Local guy, Devin Jarrett, I know what tires he runs, and he absolutely crushes us with roll speed. And yeah, that's why I'd say go Vittoria, because for the amount of roll speed they have, they grip better than they have a right to, and they last. They will last you. That combo would last you all year, no problem, and probably next year too.
Yeah, but that's normal.
Yeah. Okay, it's gonna last you. They'll never be changed.
Well, I haven't changed tires on a bike in years. I just sell the bike. But by the way, my bike's for sale if anybody wants it. It's real sweet. So that's a question then. So what do you think durability versus roll weight on the Enduro casing from Vittoria versus like an Exo Plus or Double Down from Maxxis?
Well, the Enduro casing on Vittoria is basically identical to a Maxxis Double Down.
Okay.
It's literally this. It's like the same. It's like double 120 TPI. It is Double Down.
Okay.
Just I think the side knobs especially, and the refinement of the pattern and the siping and stuff is better on Vittoria. I think they just have done a better job really thinking everything through. And the graphene in the compound is the real deal for durability. I'm telling you that those tires the side knobs don't just start cutting and shredding the way Maxxis and a lot of other brands do.
Hey, Clinton, what was the setup I had on my Remedy before I kind of quit riding enduro stuff? What didn't I have a?
You had a Segi or Asgai to everybody else on the front. I know because every time I look at our logo for this podcast, I can see that tread pattern plain as day of you endoing. Right, and I believe you had.
I thought I had a Vittoria on back.
You might have.
I think I did.
Had a Martello. It would have had to have been a Martello because the Mazda wasn't out yet. But I think you had a Maxxis of some kind out back.
Maybe.
Could have been an aggressor. Could have been HR2. Could have been a
Now
Minion.
here's
I
the
don't really
question.
know. I'm pretty sure. No, you had a Bontrager out back.
That's right. Yeah.
I think you had a SE4. You had a SE4 out back. How do I remember this? But I know that's right. I know you had a SE4 out back. Gosh, I'm a tire dork.
Yep. So here's a question then too. So if I remember correctly, the Enduro casing tires from Victoria have weird colored sidewalls. Is that right? Like, is that the gray sidewall
They're
tires?
just black. Nope, they're just black. The Enduro casing is black. I think they're newer tires. They're even doing the trail casing with black sidewalls, but I don't know that for sure. The Mazda Trails casing might still be gray, but for your Enduro bike, just get the Enduro casing front and rear. It's not that much heavier, and they don't change the compound. So your roll resistance is not going to be any better on the trail casing. The knob compound is the same. They don't do that. They design a tread pattern and a compound to basically be what it is. The only time they've done that has been in recent history. They now have an enduro race version of these tires that I think has a slightly thicker casing because I think they do one layer of 60, one layer of 120. And then the compound is extremely soft. It's softer than Maxxis Max Grip. I mean, and that would be wonderful if we lived somewhere steeper. But to me, it's not. You're not going to make up in the corners what you're going to lose getting to the corners and coming out of them.
No, that makes sense. And that kind of does change my perspective a little bit because I was planning on moving to one of the Max Grip Maxxis tires. And so it's good to know that I probably don't need to consider that because I think you're right. I think I would probably benefit better from roll speed versus cornering. And it's not that I don't like front traction, but I think I've got room to grow considerably in just straight flat out speed.
I'll be honest, the only trail in Missouri that I think a grippier compound would probably give you for sure a faster time might be Cannonball, possibly Powder Keg, but because I'm thinking the bottom of Powder Keg is so crazy, but the top 2/3 of it is all roll speed. So other than maybe Cannonball, maybe Mineshaft, depending on how hard you can pedal across the top, but that's where most of it's won and lost. Other than that, even at Shepherd, I don't think the super grippy compound is going to help you in most trails more than hurt you. I really don't. So that goes double for St. Louis area if you're racing Chubb or Matson or somewhere like that, where you've really got to put the power down to get moving. I'm pretty convinced the super grippy compounds are doing more harm than good for your overall time.
Okay.
I shouldn't say that because I want to do better. I don't want to give, we're probably the people I'm racing don't listen to this anyway because what do I know? But, by all means, you all keep doing max grip. I'm going to go try to get something that rolls a little better.
Got it. So, all right. So then, let's just say, for whatever reason, I decide I want to stick with Maxxis because I like the yellow logos on the side. What's the tire combo? What are the treads? Is it Ascii and Dissector?
No, DHR2 Max Terra rear, double down Ascii front. It's probably going to have to be Max Grip though. I don't think they make it in double down in Max Terra.
I love that. That was a good tire on the front of that Remedy. I loved it.
Or you could do a DHR2 on the front, Kyle, if you want it to roll a little better.
Does the DHR roll that good, that pattern? Does it look like it would roll well? It looks like the Dissector would roll a lot better than the DHR.
Dissector will definitely roll better, but if you want it to last all year, the side knobs are going to shred. They're tiny and they're unsupported, so they're great when they're brand new, but they don't last long. I mean, St. Louis probably okay. If you come to Shepherd one time, they're roasted.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's put that one down. Next one. Let's go.
Okay. You wanted shock choice comparisons, right?
Yep.
Okay. So here's what I can compare directly in my own experience. I can compare the Fox DHX coil, DHX2 or whatever, the Float X2 Air, the RockShox Super Deluxe Ultimate Coil with a hydraulic bottom out, and the Fox Float X, all in the newest versions of those things.
All in the same frame?
No, but similar. I mean, going from my Enduro to the Rain, similar travel bike, that sort of thing. I will say this: if you're picking between purely coil shocks, I think the RockShox wins all day. That hydraulic bottom out is a major game changer. Only downside, there's fewer clicks of adjustment, but depending on who you are, that might be better or worse.
That's better for me. Definitely
there's no high speed rebound adjustment, but I honestly, I don't think that matters. Now, I will say, I feel like the Fox might have felt a little more supple off the top, but I had to crank in the high speed compression so much to keep from clanking that thing to the bottom, even with the right spring. The hydraulic bottom out is such a huge difference. So if it's all the same to you and you are deciding between them and you don't care about brands matching or whatever, I say get the RockShox all day, every day.
No, that's okay. So the next bike's going to be a RockShox bike anyway. Either way, so the bike comes with a Lyric, which I'll be ripping off and selling immediately, and then I'll be going to a Zeb Ultimate. So it'll be coupled with the Zeb Ultimate, which of course, being me, that only leaves me with a RockShox shock. So it comes with a Super Deluxe Ultimate Air Shock stock, which I think is probably the right bike for that bike stock. But because of the way that I'm going to use it, and the fact that I'm trying to also keep a downcountry / cross country bike around, I can kind of make that bike a little bit more of a bruiser than I normally would, because I'll have another bike to ride the other places where I wouldn't want it. So that's kind of what's opened the idea. I've never owned a coil before. I've never had any reason to have one, really. I've never had a bike I could justify a coil on. But like now, I'm looking at a build, start to top to bottom, and I'm like, all right, well, I've got a bike. I've got 2 full suspension bikes in the garage now, essentially, so I can keep the one that'll pedal good and I'll ride most of my standard trail stuff, and then I'll have the other one that I can put a coil on. Now, I'm not a smash and bash racer, you know what I mean? I definitely do like playful poppy stuff, and I know the impact that a coil will have on that. I'm just trying to figure out, if I do run a coil, will I still enjoy riding the way I enjoy? And the bike that I'm getting is going to be a mullet bike, so it's going to be playful and poppy, and it's got VPP suspension, so it's kind of already going to be a playful nature bike. Can I get away with a coil, you think, and not really lose much in any way that would make me not enjoy it?
The short answer is no. I think you should stick with air.
Okay.
It does matter. I mean, you can crank in the low speed compression and open up the rebound enough to make it feel how you want, but I don't for you, Kyle. I honestly don't think it's worth the extra weight, and I know how you ride and how you like to ride, and your strengths and weaknesses and stuff. I kind of think you should stick with air.
Okay.
Even if you went with a Vivid, that might be the best of both worlds, because if it's anything like the Float X2, if my bike had come with a Float X2 on it, like my Rain, if it had come with the new one that doesn't, aerate and mess up all the time, I'd have been totally happy sticking with that, because that is a very good shock.
And that was the other consideration too, was the Vivid. Now, mostly, yeah, like for me, most of this is like, yes, I'm aware that the shock that it comes with, which is the nicest air shock from RockShox for a trail bike, it would be way more than plenty good enough, right? Most of for me is just the entertainment of building a bike, picking parts, like, and having conversations about it. That's all just part of the fun for me.
Yeah. For you, I'd say Vivid at most. I really don't think you're going to like the coil as much.
Okay.
I just don't. I mean, it's great, and it's been good for me, but you're not riding at Shepherd all the time.
I haven't ridden at Shepherd in almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
So, if y'all ever want a deeper comparison on these shocks, just ask me. Shoot me an email. Shoot me a Facebook message, whatever.
Or post up on our account and say, hey, can I get 20 minutes of shock talk? We'll do that. We just don't want to bore you guys with it today.
Even if I do, I can do it by myself even if I need to. All right. I think, Kyle, we should swap our, we'll still get to yours, but, Should we do the worth it, not up worth it upgrades first, or the hypothetical quiver killer bike?
I don't care. Brian?
Let's jump into the upgrades one, because I think this can get a little. There can be some debate on some of these, right? Like, I think maybe each of us just picks like one thing people tend to upgrade on their bike, and then we can kind of discuss it. I think there's going to be some varying opinions on some of this.
Yeah, I've got one that's totally not worth the money. This is the easiest one for me, especially considering some of the options out there that are much cheaper, that really have zero impact of any noticeable weight. Is carbon handlebars. Not worth it. I have some. I have some on my bike. If I already have them, that's fine. Would I go out of the way to pay for carbon bars at carbon bar prices? Heck no, not a chance.
Yeah, no. Let's have this conversation around the fact that let's say we already own an NX level, a bone stock NX level build bike, right? It's a $2,800, $3,200 12-speed bike, 1x12, hydraulic brakes, full suspension, 29. Like, we're starting there. We're starting with a bike that is similar to most of the people that listen to the podcast would ride, like that level of bike, right? Let's start from there and then say, all right, what is worth it? What is not worth it? So Clint says carbon handlebars not worth it. I agree. I'm a snob and I ride carbon bars, but that's not where I'd put my money if that was the bike I had.
And I'm totally going to disagree. Depending though, with the statement of, I would ask somebody that came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to buy carbon bars." I would ask why, and I will go and say, like, the expense for a gram or two, no, not worth it. For me, who have totally destroyed my arms over the years, my elbows, my wrists, with a lot of metal in them to hold them together, I 1000%, I will go to my grave and say, I notice a difference in compliance, and it helps my hands and my elbow and my wrists not ache. 1000%, I notice it. So that's
my theory, though, Ryan, because I know what grips you, is that 99% of that benefit you could probably get from using a set of ribbed ESI super chunky grips.
I've tried all grips. It's not in the grip.
Really?
And super chunkies, just so you know. I just don't run the ribbed ones.
The ribbed ones are softer. Just so everybody knows, they are softer. They have the same diameter, but they are squishier than the non-ribbed ones. I know because my buddy Bryce uses them, and I'm mad because I had the non-ribbed ones and the super chunkies, and I didn't really like them. They didn't squish down very much and conform to my hand. And then so I went to the regular chunkies, which are fine, but they don't absorb as much because they're thinner. But he's got the super chunky ribbed ones, and they are noticeably softer, like when I get on his bike. Anyway,
but I will argue that I've tried all the softest of grips, and it's not a grip thing. It's a bar thing. And if you sit there and if you have a good enough eye and you have somebody pull down on a carbon bar and see them flex, and I'm just saying, I can go from I could swap bars and go ride, and my wrists and my elbows hurt on an aluminum bar, and I go on the carbon bar and they don't hurt.
So Ryan, is it a flex thing, or is it a chatter and vibration thing? Because carbon is a vibration dampening material compared to aluminum.
I truly believe it's both, and I even can kind of say, going geeky and saying, like, on a road bike, I notice it big difference too. So,
okay,
1000%, like, that's the reason. Again, I will go to bat, and somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I want to blow $200 and get a set of carbon bars." I would ask them why, and if they said weight savings, I'd go, "You're stupid." But and you know me, I'm a weight weenie, so for me, it's 100% compliance, and I feel it for sure.
Okay, so carbon bars worth it for Ryan.
But you got to get the right carbon bars, because I promise you, the old Bontrager carbon bars were harsher and stiffer than any aluminum bar on the market. They were
1,000,000% will agree with that too. I've tried Bontragers, I've tried Deities, and I'm 100%. I feel that Renthals are the most compliant for me. So
one up is supposed to have
were awful. They were so hard.
One up is supposed to have a real solid flex rate to it too. Like, they've got some tube shaping and everything.
Yeah.
that's supposed to be really nice. Lauren's on those. So Lauren with all of her wrist issues that she went through from the moto crash, she's got some wrist issues that go to, and so I paired a pair of the cross country version actually with the 31/8 clamp 1-up bars for her, and she likes them more. She likes them more than she did for the other bars. So,
and not even getting too far off on a tangent on this, but for me, I threw on a carbon stem, which was stupid expensive, but that helped as well for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know they made carbon. I mean, I knew they did, but
yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know you could work compliance into a stem in any way, shape, or form. That just seems like a giant chunk of something to keep everything together.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Kyle. Give us one that's not worth it and one that is worth it.
Okay, so let's talk drivetrain because that's something everybody looks at, right? So I will say, if you're riding an NX bike or an SX bike, this is going to pain me to say because I have a preference, but I will say XO, XX, Axis systems, not worth it. GX level drivetrain, worth it over the NX and SX. Like
100%. SX is a joke.
SX especially, but even like NX, like the feel of a mechanical GX shifter and derailleur versus the shifter and derailleur for anything below it is worth it on the mechanical level. Now, with that said, too, the GX Axis kits are so affordable now that it's like that's almost kind of a no-brainer.
Yes, the electronic shifting is awesome, and if you can afford it, it's great. Forget feel and clicker feel or whatever. The SX stuff just doesn't work. It works for a little bit until you hit a bump, and then all of a sudden it's not working. I mean, I've got a buddy with a bike that had SX. Well, he still has it, and we spent more time trying to make that stuff work. If you're riding around pavement and gravel trails and literally not doing anything like rough or fast, I guess it's probably fine. But I don't think SX should even exist. NX is definitely a step up from SX, but at that point, mechanical GX solves so many problems that SX has and NX has. Or you just go to Shimano. I think Shimano's low-level stuff is much more reliable. From everything I read, that even their low-level stuff has been totally fine.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's heavier. Like that's about it. And I don't really care budget of it. I just want it to work when I use it.
Yeah, no, like the budget entry level Dior 12-speed stuff does feel and work better than the budget entry level SX stuff. But I'm a SRAM guy. I will run SRAM forever. And so I say GX worth it. Axis, maybe not necessarily worth it. If you're trying to get your bike running good and survive a race season, GX mechanical all day, worth it.
It's not gonna, the electronic's not gonna change your life unless you're riding for 6+ hours at a time. Then it's pretty nice.
Yeah. But, so I got one that you see this pop up a lot, and I'm an advocate for them. And it's funny, like the things I'm advocating for in this conversation are things that help injury and all my aches and pains and my broken body. But oval chain rings, for me, I see all the time like pop up like Instagram, like not worth it or something like that. And maybe it's in my head. I would if it was just strictly a mental thing that my mind believes it, and for some reason my knees don't hurt. I totally could buy that, but I'm just telling you, with an oval chain ring, I don't necessarily notice a huge difference in the feel, although I think it helps with the engagement. But my knees magically don't hurt. So I'm just going to throw that one in. You guys can challenge me on that or not. I'm just telling you, for me, my knees don't hurt, and it very well could be a mental thing. But I'm going to keep.
But you think that was from an oval chain ring?
I know when I was not running ovals, it's been a long time since I've not ran an oval. I was having a lot of knee pains, and I tried fitment stuff. Shoot, I even had Chris do me the full fit thing, at the old shop at Momentum when we were there. I tried different shoe placement, different shoes, different pedals. And honestly, once I switched to an oval, I've never really had knee pain, maybe a few times here and there, but never really had any knee pain. So kind of interesting. Again,
That is
Interesting.
it's not far-fetched for me to go out and say it could be 1,000% mental, but I did try other things to fix the knee pain and I couldn't. So
Poor Ryan. Everything's for Ryan is.
I have to build my bike so I don't hurt when I ride.
Hey, I got one that nobody's gonna see coming. So I a while back got some. The brand is Beneath, but it's spelled like B3NTH or something.
Yeah.
Called the North Shore chamois. So on your butt, it's pretty well like a normal chamois. Maybe not quite as thick as some of them, but it's still decently thick. It's not like I thought it was going to be just like a tiny little sliver of a pad, but no, it's like a legit amount of foam. But from like pasture, you get into the taint area, it switches from there's no chamois and it's more like a thick boxer brief. So there's plenty of support and it's got a little pouch and everything. But man, I have been so much more comfortable on long rides than that.
Yeah.
It gets a little the thickness away, so you don't have pressure where you might get numb. That has been a worthy upgrade compared to just sort of generic chamois. And I've got a nice Fox ones. I've had $13 ones that seem to be just fine. Also, I have a better saddle now, so it does help. But I prefer that North Shore one for any ride, any length of time. I just find it to be much more comfortable.
Interesting thing though, Clint, I switched this year. I got a pair of stupidly expensive ASOS bibs with their chamois, and their chamois is very similar to what you explained, where kind of in that crotch region with the pouch kind of system, and it definitely on long rides it's noticeable. Definitely more comfort. So I don't doubt you on that.
Yep. I've got one more that's worth it. If you are a racer riding somewhere that's super rough, if you are on a bike that came with a Fox 36 or maybe a Lyric, and you're running like Yari, whatever, 160 travel or more on the front, maybe even 150. Shoot, I would say even 140 now because this Manitou Measure I have can literally be adjusted from anywhere from 140 to 180, and it's all internal adjustment, so you don't have to buy any parts. Anyway, going up to the bigger stanchion, going from a Fox 36 to a Zeb was the single biggest performance upgrade I've ever experienced for how comfortable I was, how fast I felt like I could go through rough stuff at Shepherd on trails like Cannonball. And to this day, I still say that made a bigger difference than even swapping bikes, swapping shocks, wheels, tires. Going to the bigger stanchions, for me, of course, I'm with geared up, I'm sure I'm 200 pounds or more. For me, everything felt better. There were no downsides. And it was when you start hitting all these big off angle granite chunks, that made such a huge difference. Like I will always get the biggest stanchion I can from a brand on a big bike. I think that was a swap that was totally worth it.
Clinton, is it you're feeling more of the fork working than the flex of the fork? Is that why?
Yeah. So here's where I think your body weight matters, because there's pro enduro guys that are choosing like the Lyric over the Zeb, and some don't. Here's where I think body weight matters, because this bothers me in motocross and mountain biking, where the conventional wisdom is a stiffer fork is a harsher fork. When I say stiff, I mean how much it flexes. Right. That is not actually true.
But torsional stiffness is super important for the fork to work too. Like a stiffer fork, if it's not torsionally twisting, that means all of the things are moving freer and doing what they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Like I'm with you. Like I had the exact same bike and went from a Fox Factory 36 to a Fox Factory 38. And then I've also had the same bike and gone Lyric to Zeb on the same frame, back to back, ridden the same places like day one, day two. And every time I've done it, I felt faster and more stable on the bigger stanchion fork.
Right, because if you have too much flex, you get binding, in the moving parts, and that can actually make them feel harsher, stiffer, and they're not absorbing as well. Now, where you can kind of lose it a little bit, which this is more obvious, I think, with wheels, is when let's say you're in a flat corner. If there's no flex at all, you might lose traction slightly sooner.
Yeah.
When you've got the thing leaned over and the fork's not really working up and down. But for my body weight, it was no issue. And if you want to go a little lighter, I do not get free parts or paid by Manitou. People think I do when I comment, but this 37 millimeter stanchion Manitou Mezzer, it's stiffer, it's lighter. It is a great option, and it's if they still have them, they were on sale for like $650 for the top level fork. And I would say it's better than my Zeb ever was, but without a doubt, it is at least as good in every way that I can feel.
So let's make this simpler too, because I've got exactly 2 minutes before I've got to jump off onto another call. But so let's talk. So let's say you start with a Yari or a Rhythm, and let's say maybe you're not considering bigger stanchions, right? Is the most basic entry level air spring and dampener assembly from either Fox, RockShox, or whoever, is it worth the upgrade to the highest end one? So let's talk like whatever the most basic entry level Rhythm stuff is versus factory, and then like select RockShox level stuff versus ultimate. Is that same fork, same everything? Is that worth it?
That is a good question. I've ridden these. I had a Fox 36 that was grip 1, and Fox 36 and 34s that were grip 2. The question is, do you notice the high speed compression settings adjustment? Because I would imagine, because there's high speed compression settings in those, but they're just valved probably to about the middle of the range internally, and then there's no external adjustment of that, right? So the question is, do you really notice the difference? I don't know that that's really worth it.
Yeah, but you haven't, Clint. You haven't ridden like you're talking grip 1 versus grip 2. I'm talking rhythm or like RockShox Select, right? We're talking a $400 fork versus a $900 fork. I think it's worth it.
I think it's worth it to go from something like a RockShox RS Silver or Gold to a Pike Select or Select Plus, for sure.
Yeah, but why would you do that though? Like, why not just go Ultimate out of the gate? Like, it's either $800 or $900.
Okay, well, that's fine. Just depends on how much money you want to spend. But
if you're buying new, if you're buying used and you find a deal on something, sure. But like, if you're buying new, you're either $700 or $850, you're whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you're only another $100 more to get the nicest thing you can have.
Well, you're going from because keep in mind, some models you can't even put in like volume spacers, right? Like the RockShox entry level forks, not the entry level Pikes or Lyrics or Zebs. You can still put like volume spacers in those things.
Right.
The real, like just the gold, silver, whatever, you can't even adjust that stuff. It's open or it's closed, and you get some rebound.
That's in my head. That's kind of what I was thinking. But all right, well, hey boys, I got to get out of here. I got stuff I got to do. Finish up for me.
Okay, we will. I'm sure Ryan's got some more injury upgrades that are worth it or not. I'll tell you what's not worth it, Ryan, unless you were just the absolute biggest weight weenie. At least performance-wise, I see no need to go from alloy cranks to carbon cranks. Unless you've got some really crappy cranks. But if you've got some SRAM GX level old alloy cranks, they're fine.
You're saying no advantage other than weight?
Yes, correct. No, some of the old ones I've heard could be a little flexy, but
I'd probably agree with you on that. I obviously run them because I'm a weight weenie, but I don't think I could say, I noticed like the power to the ground being better with carbon over aluminum. I'd agree. Carbon's just cool.
Yeah, I would say if you can afford it, going from like entry level Tektro brakes to just base level SRAM or Shimano brake would probably be worth it, especially if the rotors don't allow anything other than like those soft organic pads.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I've witnessed that, man. Just brake, just fade and there's nothing you can do to make it better.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that for sure.
Um,
I was trying to think of any other upgrades. I think we'll save the last topic for the next podcast for sure.
We will, but I've got one more upgrade that's not worth it.
What you got?
You're gonna fight me on this.
Yeah.
I do not believe that high engagement hubs are worth the money for the specifically that you have to have the high engagement to go faster or whatever. It's nice, but it was definitely not where I would go to start upgrading a bike. There's so many other places to get performance advantage besides being like, I've got to get even just like a upgrade kit. Now I know that they can be cheap. Think of it like a DT Swiss ratchet upgrade kit to get more engagement.
Yeah.
I'm totally happy with a good old 3-pawl engagement hub like my Enduro. I had just the basic. It was like a DT Swiss made it for specialized 360 hub, 3-pawl, would be 36 points of engagement or something. And I've been on Bontrager 108 point of engagement, extremely fast engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really say I was any happier, faster, slower, either direction. It's like whatever.
I think like I'm not going to argue a ton with you on it. I think what you're saying though is you notice the increased engagement, but does it make you faster? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And in fact, downhill it might make you a little slower potentially.
Maybe I think about like where may it be beneficial is like maybe you get in a really techie rock garden and you kind of got to ratchet your pedal and then kind of get back into the power to kind of hop up over something. I think that'd be probably the only beneficial place. And, mostly like if you're running enduro or downhill, like you're going downhill. So I don't think it's going to make a difference there for you. I'm thinking more like on my cross country bike, like maybe like the monkey heads at Lost Valley or something like that, where there's a little kind of, you don't have room to full pedal strokes. You kind of got to ratchet back and then jump back into it on the same foot. Maybe it's beneficial there. I mean, I think you definitely notice it, but it's like, is it worth going from like the stock Bontrager hub that you can then buy the upgrade kit for $10 or spending $600 on or $700 or $800 on, like my Onyx hubs are awesome. Yeah, they feel awesome, but yeah, they're $800, $900 for a pair of hubs. Like is it worth it? Like I'd probably even sit here and, well, in fact, I'm looking at new wheel sets and I'm not looking at those hubs, even though they're probably the best engaging hub there is, period, out there. So yeah, I would agree with you from that standpoint. It's noticeable, but it's like if you're buying a more entry level bike and you've got all these things we've been talking about as upgrades, like is that the place you go? No, it's probably the last, in my opinion.
It'd be the last. Well, and here's the other thing is, if you are in a situation where you have the skill set that it's like, I could ride through this if my hub was better, you're probably already on a bike that's much higher level than what we're talking about anyway.
I was going to say that, like your guys that where it matters, like are trying to win races, they're on the best of the best stuff anyway. So,
Exactly.
We look at it and a lot of our listeners are, hopefully in the local community are catching on to this and starting to listen, and they're new mountain bikers and, looking for some advice on where to go. And I think that's where we're trying to go with this, is not like from a avid racer with high end bikes, like we're fortunate enough to ride. Maybe they're riding something more entry level. They're just getting in the sport and they want to upgrade as they go. I think this is kind of a good, looking at it from their standpoint.
I think we hit on the most obvious way to maybe determine this is whatever bike you have, what's broken or what seems to be malfunctioning.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you upgrade. If you've got a shock that, like one of those low level X Fusion, whatever shocks, because I've witnessed this, and it's got no rebound or compression damping. The adjusters don't seem to be doing anything because the internals are blown. Probably the thing your bike really needs to be upgraded the most with is a new shock.
Yeah,
or
1,000.
if your drivetrain like won't shift and all you do is spend time working on it, that's probably it. Now you might say, well, my brakes aren't great, but it's like, well, are they not great or do they not work? Because
Right.
if they work, fix the things that don't seem to work first. That's the obvious answer. I think a lot of people buy a bike and then immediately start upgrading things without really riding it. Like,
Yes.
get your bike as dialed as you can and ride it, and then figure out what you just can't make better that needs to be better.
Well, and perfect example is that when I built this Epic Evo. I mean, let's be real. I built I maxed out what someone could possibly spend on that bike, pretty much, right? And it was bad to the bone, but I quickly rode it and realized, oh, I probably shouldn't have spent the money on this way. I should have bought this instead. Or nothing was real, not like it was maybe cheaper, but I think you kind of find that out. And I think it's important. Somebody buys a bike, entry level or high end, don't just guess, like go ride the thing and not just one ride. Like it takes you a couple rides to kind of get used to how that bike performs and then make decisions on maybe what you should change and upgrade or change, alter.
Hey, I've got last one. You're going to be proud of me on this.
Okay.
So as you know, that I live in a town where we don't have a bike shop here in town. And so I'm always looking for ways to get around things that are made specifically for bikes that I can get at the local hardware shop or Walmart,
Sure.
And for years, Ryan, I have used Gorilla Tape to tape my rims if I need to tape rims, because I've been doing this for years.
No.
I don't know what happened, but last week I had to retape and mess with, and I was pumping a tire back up to seal it. It's happened to me twice, and all of a sudden I get to about 30 psi and I hear, psh, and the tape had gotten, probably putting the tire on had gotten a little messed up or whatever, and air was coming out. This happened, and I was so mad that I finally broke down and ordered some actual rim tape, and I had to do my best to get most all the Gorilla Tape residue cleaned off the rims. So by golly, people, the problem is time, right? I wanted to go ride that day. I didn't have any rim tape that day. Well, I finally broke down, realized there's another perfectly good, ready to go bike sitting in my basement I can go ride. And I ordered some freaking actual rim tape. Though I will say, if you do that, don't order the WTB brand. They're sending me another roll because the tape kept tearing on the edges. And I mean, I'm like cutting it, starting over, being real careful. And like this went on for about the first third of the roll till I finally get where it would finally start peeling cleanly and I could tape my rim.
Yeah.
But it was also the cheapest one I could find on Amazon. So
yeah. No,
so I guess rim tape is worth it over Gorilla Tape after all.
It is, but I will be the first to admit this may shock everybody, but I've actually ran Gorilla Tape in the past, and yes, it works pretty good, especially if you're in a pinch or you don't live close to a bike shop.
Well, I think I know why it wasn't sticking as well. I think because I cleaned my rim I had this squirt bottle that I always had rubbing alcohol in, and I'm using it and I'm cleaning. And then I realized after this happened twice that, oh yeah, we had rinsed that squirt bottle out and put in the stuff that you use when you're putting on a ride wrap. So I wasn't actually cleaning my rim with alcohol. So maybe it wasn't sticking quite as good.
Yeah.
But either way, I was like, I'm just going to wait till the rim tape gets here. So I did it. Once I finally got the tape to stop tearing, I put the tire on and literally no problem. Like immediate seal, no problem, ready to go. Dang it. Like I didn't want that to be the case. I really did.
Wanted to continue to spend little money on Gorilla Tape, but you were enlightened that there is a better solution.
Yeah. The biggest problem with Gorilla Tape is getting the width correct, and also if you need to peel it off, holy smokes. Yeah, like I didn't get it perfectly clean, but the residue my thumbs were just like raw, like, because that's the only way to get it off.
Yep.
Goo Gone doesn't work. None of that stuff works. You just got to take your thumb and like roll it.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, no, the rim tape, it's definitely one of those, like, it's almost like if you're in a situation like you just have a spare sitting on in your toolbox, it's like, it's definitely better. Like I said, I've used Gorilla Tape, and I was kind of like you. I was in a pinch. I think it was maybe the bike shop was closed, or I don't remember why, but I've definitely used it, and it'll work, but it's not fun when you got to clean it up and use the right product. So.
yep. All right. Well, I guess we will save the Quiver Killer bike, which when we described, in my opinion, there is no actual bike in existence that
Right.
really is, but I guess a hypothetical one. How would we design it for next time? But yeah, this has gone on long enough.
Good
So
podcast.
thanks for listening. It got better here at the end once Kyle left, we all know, but don't anybody tell him that. And we'll see if he actually listens to this thing and has anything to say. So you can always send us suggestions on our Facebook page. You can email us at okayest, that's OKAYEST, MTB@gmail.com. I do check it pretty regularly. We would love to cover topics you want us to cover, but we have to know what they are. So give us a holler, and thanks for listening.
Later, everybody.